which I just came to complain about my property tax. Not that it will do any good, but anyway, it goes up every year. And I'm on a fixed income. And I'm thinking, these people are driving me out of my house. My property tax is pretty good, actually. It's, I don't think it needs to keep getting higher every year. I'm not sure where they're spending the money at, or why they need the money. Maybe there's a good reason. Anyway, I just want to complain. That's all.
You're very pleasant at complaining. I'll give you that.
I appreciate
Well,
your attitude, sir.
I just don't. I thought, what the heck? I'm not doing anything on Tuesday morning. I'll come out and talk to the city council.
Can you say your name again, please?
It's Hank Gear.
Well, I'll share with you some of the challenges we have. So, as far as your property tax dollars and trying to keep our costs to operate the city the same every year, when compounded over the last, I think, 3 years, we're facing about a 17% increase in costs.
God.
And so to try to offset that and not lower services and we have needs and wants. We have needs for sewer and water and infrastructure.
Right.
We have wants for parks and improvements and economic development. And everyone's going to have a different opinion as to what's important. And every decision we make is going to be criticized no matter what, so we just have to get used to it. But to try to stay or lower the dollars we spend when at the other side of it we're seeing 17% increase over 3 years in the cost of things, it's a tough nut to crack. And we're a piece of the greater property tax dollar. I think we are 25 cents on the dollar.
No,
for
I
your
have that
property
right
taxes.
here, John, if you'd like me to read it.
Councilmember Craig Fast. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
32 cents of every dollar that you pay in taxes goes to the community college. 25 cents,
That's USD 308.
High school.
USD 308.
Yes.
That's where most of your tax dollar goes. The second piece is the city of Hutchinson. That's 25 cents of your tax dollar. And then the third highest is HCC at 23 cents.
No, that's the county.
Excuse me, I'm messing this all up. 23 cents goes to the county. My point is, there's three of us that take a lot of your tax money, but we have lowered the mill levy. The price, your appraisal on your house has gone up, which could be viewed as a good thing.
Well, if I could sell it for that.
Well, but another example, John, and I'm sorry I interrupted. The people that work for the city in this room, we help subsidize their health insurance. It's gone up 13% this year.
Yeah, I know.
And also wages continue to increase in the private sector and the public sector, and we're trying to keep up. A city job used to be the best job in town. We're trying to fix that and make that the best job in town, and it certainly doesn't come without a cost. And
we're trying to supplement the revenue to where the property tax isn't as affected as much, because that's only part of the bigger picture. I think we're floating somewhere around 17.8 derived from property taxes. We've been floating low 17 million for the last 2 or 3 years. I think we had 1 year we in 2020 or 2021 we got about 16.9 out of property taxes. So we're trying to find funding from other areas that aren't going to affect the public as much, but it's a struggle to try to get these budgets, especially when things fluctuate year to year so much.
We need a larger tax base.
We need more people living in a smaller geographic area, so we're spreading the burden for the same infrastructure among more taxpayers.
And I guess I'm paying for Hutch High. I live in the Bueller School District.
well, then you'd be paying for the Bueller.
Okay, so
I was reading for a.
Okay. I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a small portion for Nickerson and Bueller also, but the Hutchinson School District takes.
And I realize that with inflation, things keep going up. But I had to complain to somebody.
Well,
Anyhow,
You're much more pleasant to complain than some of the
Yes.
other people I hear from.
you've been heard, and we've heard from others, and
well, that's good.
I
I don't know what you
appreciate
can do about
living in
it.
our town.
I guess I'll just blame Biden.
Well,
Well, we're trying. It is definitely recognized. We're trying to find ways to where it's not such a burden on the public, without cutting out things that people really
Right.
need.
I
and
understand.
want. And quite frankly, I mean, there's some areas in our budget where we're pretty razor thin, where we really should probably be investing more money.
Yeah, I know they raise your property taxes by either raising the mill levy or the value of your house. And value of my house keeps going up every year. I think that's wonderful if I can just sell it for that.
Right,
I don't know.
and there's other conversations that we have, socially or in the public field in regards to how do families build generational wealth, and that's through the valuation of your property
Right.
that you own. But
Yeah.
then there's a cost to that, and that's the property tax that you pay on the property. And people have been getting in trouble with insurance too, because a lot of that's based on replacement value, and you have
Yeah.
to bump up the value of your house for that.
Well, anyway, I just thought I'd come
Thank you.
and besides, I've never been to a city council meeting before, and it's been interesting.
we have some interesting
You
meetings.
do have interesting
here.
things going on here.
We're here on Tuesdays if you
Yeah,
want to
we'll
come
see you in
back.
2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
First
You
and
don't have
third
anything
Tuesday of
better
the
to
month.
do.
But your
I,
comments are
I
probably
actually applied for to be on the city council here a while back, and then there were a number of us that applied.
that's where I
Your name
recognize
looks
your name.
familiar.
You're one of 17. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right. And then I thought, well, maybe I have a chance to do this, and then Stuart Conklin gets his name in there, and I knew I was dead in the water.
Well, your comments are probably shared by a vast majority of the population of Hutchinson, so it needs to be said.
I think so.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for the public hearing on this in regards to the mill levy? How about city council members?
One thing that I'd like to point out is, and this is no criticism of people in the room here, because obviously we all showed up today. Hank, I appreciate your comments. I haven't received but one email, which was more about golf prices at Cary Park, about the budget, and it's really hard to make these decisions without public input. The comments on Facebook and whatnot are not how I like to make my decisions. But I wish people would reach out more. Maybe you guys don't feel that strongly, but I don't get a lot of emails, and I figured that the budget was something that people cared deeply about because it is tied to their home values and whatnot, and the services that they receive. So I was a little disappointed to not receive any emails, save for one, about the budget. So I guess I'll just wing it when I make my decision on the budget.
You'll
I'm just kidding,
you'll
yeah.
hear about it after the fact.
Yeah, for years probably. But no, I've been reading a lot of historically of what we've done and the things that we plan to do. And what year was the mill levy? 40. We were at 42.
We were at 41 and change last year, and I think we were at 44 the year after for a couple of years.
Yeah, let me.
The year before.
Yeah, we ran 44, I think, for 2 to 3 years in a row on the mill
21.
levy. But yeah,
There's a page that shows all of that. It's page 40 in the budget book. And so back in 2019, we were at 44.501. And then it held around 44 for 2020 and 2021. And then went to 41.556 and then 40.326.
okay.
We've gone down.
We're the thought. So for 2024, we're looking at approximately a 6% increase in average home values, and we don't want to do it. And it's not a sustainable concept to try to not match in some way, but we're trying to find a happy medium where we don't increase our budget by that amount. So, because a lot of people are going through these pains of a big shift in costs. And we're going to be going through those pains too as a community. And so we're trying to share in that pain a little bit. But we were shooting for revenue neutral last year, and to try to do that 2 years in a row where we have inflation the way it is not going to happen. Any other questions on the mill levy or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close public hearing.
I second that.
Motion and a second. Please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. I would entertain a motion to open, we have to do the approval, excuse me. I would entertain a motion to approve a resolution of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas to levy a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate and authorize me to sign.
I second that.
I was asking for someone to
Okay,
make
go
the
ahead.
motion.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Do you wanna
asking
make the
for someone
motion?
to make the motion.
I'll make the motion then.
I'll second.
Thank you for me messing that up. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? If not, please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Next item.
Item 7B, a public hearing regarding adoption of the 2024 budget.
I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing.
Okay, Angela, Richard,
We need a second.
Oh, I second.
Please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes, sorry about that. I'm messing this thing up. on
and
the
I'm
order
just
of
gung
things.
ho to get this.
You've got it in your head. You know you want to say it. Yeah, I get it. All right.
Okay, so we did a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, and we talked about the mill levy. The next item that we need to do is discuss the actual budget, and this is where we can get in depth if we need to answer any questions about specific items. So again, the mill levy would be 40.326. The Hutch Recreation Commission is included. They have kept their mill levy the same at 3.613, which exceeds their revenue neutral rate, and they have done their procedures as needed. There are some changes to the proposed budget book that I would like to talk about, possibly making whether you would like to or not. One of those is that the Chamber of Commerce, last year we gave them $100,000 for the downtown master plan. They had requested that just kind of be rolled into their operating budgets for growth and downtown. Mary Grace and I had discussed possibly cutting that to what it was last year and moving that $100,000 to the Economic Opportunity Fund. One reason for that is you are well aware that there are several economic development projects that may be in the works. And so if any of those were to come through, that would help us in the future to fund those job incentives or other items that may be coming. I don't know if there are any thoughts about that particular
Did you
item.
want to go through all the items and then
Okay.
circle back around for
Yep,
comment?
I have 3 items.
All right.
The other, because we didn't get a chance to really discuss the outside agencies, was we could increase the Arts and Humanities $3,000 for the Juneteenth as requested by Hilo. I did not include that in the budget. It was requested, and like I said, we didn't thoroughly discuss that at our last study session. The third item is the turf. I think that's still up for debate. I don't know that we firmly reached that we want to include that in the budget. My suggestion would be to include that in the budget, keep it in there just in case it comes to fruition. And then if something comes up, we don't reach agreements or you decide against it, it doesn't have to happen. And we're able to just not do that project, and then in 2025, we would have more bonding capability.
So on that one, it is in the budget,
Yes.
even though it hasn't officially
Yes.
been approved by
Yes.
us to move forward with it. Okay.
So those are the 3 items I'd like to discuss before we finalize this. I don't know if Mary Grace has any comments.
I do. One of the things I want council to recognize is that what you'll be approving is the expenditure total. And
prior to final adoption of the budget book publication, that I want to review some of the possible shifting of the expenditures. So you're just going to be approving the totals today, and then prior to publishing it and finalizing, I might shift some of the totals within different departments.
Right. Okay. Is everyone clear on that? Yeah. All right. Any questions on these items in particular, or the budget as a whole, from anyone on city council?
I wanted to go back and reread the Hilo letter. Shantina sent us a letter. Do you know when that was sent? Was that in a packet, or was that
She sent some
secondary sent
information,
via email?
but then I handed these out at a council meeting. I'm not sure if everyone was there, so I can give you that as well. If you don't want to include it at this point, it is something we could later award next year if we decide to.
Okay. Any discussions on the first item in regards to the moving the $100,000 and rolling it into the economic development?
We're just moving it, we're not. Yeah.
In fairness, I have had conversations with the chamber, and they. That's okay. And there was some concern that they had, and they wanted to potentially have more dialogue. I said if they needed to present something that I needed to look at, that they needed to do that. Again, if you're going to finalize expenditures and things like that, total, that wouldn't change before we finally adopt it.
It's this right now is more of a question for the total, not.
Correct.
It could swing back and forth between which fund it goes into.
Correct.
All right. I see Ms. Tufel here. Do you have any comments on this item, if you have a moment?
Good morning, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to come this morning to comment. As you recall, in the budget hearing where we discussed these items on July 5th, we probably did abbreviate that conversation just a bit. But to elaborate, last year we made a funding request for an increase for downtown Hutch for two things. One, to fulfill the obligation to Kansas Main Street that we fully fund a full-time staff position for downtown Hutch. And at the same time, we had a group of interested parties and stakeholders in downtown requesting funding for the master plan. And so that master plan funding was added to our budget last year. But what was not added to our budget last year was fully funding a full-time staff position for downtown Hutch. So instead, at the time, interim city manager Gary Meager and I had discussed that as an opportunity to create a half-time downtown coordinator position, while the chamber still provided in-kind staffing support for the remainder of the work of downtown, with the goal that we fulfill that obligation as a Kansas Main Street community to fully fund that position as a full-time staff position, and working towards that as a goal. I truly believe that as we get to implementation of the downtown master plan that will be completed this year, that we will need to move to a place that we have a fully staffed position there. This year, your funding for downtown included some money for promotions, as we have had in the past, but only half-time staffing. And so part of that $100,000, if you want to call it an increased budget request, if you subtract out the master plan, was to help us fully staff downtown, as well as add some funding for implementation of the downtown master plan. I realize budgets are tight, and so the other part of the budget request was a $50,000 reallocation to Greater Hutch for some of the work we're doing in economic development and workforce development staffing. So almost the entirety of that budget increase were for staffing positions that we're kind of band-aiding, if you will, right now. And Mary Grace and I had that conversation about what does that do to those positions if we don't fully fund that request. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I realize you're having to make those tough decisions right now. But we're also doing some things in economic development that it is a people business, and we do need the staff in those positions. So I do like the idea that some of it could be put into that economic opportunity fund, because there are economic opportunities ahead of us. I just don't want us to lose sight of the fact that as a Kansas Main Street community, we do sign an agreement every year with the state that we fully staff downtown Hutch. And we took that role very seriously when we took the burden from the city about 4 years ago in staffing downtown and said, we, believe in our downtown. We want to be a partner. And as a chamber organization that has many members downtown, we want to be that partner for that work. At the time, it didn't really come with allocation for staffing. And so I think we have to move to a place that if we really want to fulfill that obligation to our downtown core business district, that you consider that funding request. Thank you for letting me comment on that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Tufel?
The planning person, what's his,
Jim Sightnader?
is that what Mr. Sightner used to do? Mr. Sightner used to do that job, am I right?
Yes. Yes, prior to 2019, Jim was in a role that he was your downtown manager, and maybe some other duties within the city that I couldn't speak to. And there was a time where it was being looked at as cutting that position, and that was when the Downtown Hutch Board came to us with the opportunity for us to partner as a chamber, and we adopted Downtown Hutch as one of our divisions. And so, but to date, your funding for Downtown Hutch for the chamber had simply been for the promotions and marketing, but not for staffing. Last year was the first year that you added $30,000 that we can draw down upon for that halftime staff position, which includes some benefits as well.
I do know when we had that position with him and another gentleman did it too, it went very well, and we need that position as far as I'm concerned. So,
It's an important role.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, so to be clear right now, that $100,000 is still in the overall budget. It's just which bucket does it go
Right.
into is the question.
Correct.
The other item on here is the turf question, and is leaving it in the budget even though we haven't decided what we're going to do with that. And that's really just affecting our bonding capacity in regards to if we decide to do nothing or partial or what, and that could be applied to other projects. And we don't have to make that decision today. It's just leaving it in the budget for now as a line item. Any questions from the audience or any comments? This is a public hearing, an open hearing. Well, we have to have you come up to the podium if you want to be part of the. Yes, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I figured everybody could hear me. What is Downtown Hutch? What does that do?
What is downtown? It's promoting the economic development of our downtown corridor. So it's promoting trying to get new businesses and to grow businesses between traditionally what is around Avenue C to 7th or 8th.
Has it worked?
Well, the private sector's put in, I don't know, 80, 90 million in the last 10 years, 12 years into downtown. I left in 99 and downtown was not doing so hot, and I came back in 14 and it was a big difference
Yeah.
between when I left and I came back.
Yeah, it's in the wrong area, that's all.
The downtown is in the wrong area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
Needs
hard
to
to
be-
change that at this point.
Needs to be further north.
We'll find just as many people that say it needs to be further south. I don't know if we're going to fix that one today, sir.
Well, I thought I'd try.
All right. Any other comments in regards to the budget?
Yes, watch out.
Sorry.
Tony Finlay, Hutch Rec. Just clarification on the turf. What exactly is in the budget when you say it's in the budget? Like what project specifically?
So we do have an agreement that we have received a letter from HCC to do Hobart Desert and one field at Fun Valley at a 50 50-50 split with the city. And we're still in the process of having time to discuss if 308, USD 308 is interested in a field at Fun Valley, but those discussions haven't occurred yet.
Thank you. So, just a couple of comments. Obviously, we're all in on turf on all the fields, Fun Valley and Hobart, so definitely thank you for the Hobart decision. In regards to Fun Valley, just the information that we shared on the July 5th budget work session, just to make sure we all understand, if you do not turf all the fields, that does not help the city's side of the business equation. So having one or two turf fields out there, when I have 30 teams and we have a rain event, those 2 turf fields, we're still going to cancel the majority of that tournament. And so when we've looked at the economics of that over the last few years, it's hard to find tournaments that will come here because we don't have turf. Turfing too is not going to help your side. It's great for the college, it's great for the high school. I'm not against that. I just want to make sure you all understand that doesn't help your side of the equation, and you will continue to see subsidies grow as we lose those tournaments, and sanctioning groups do not want to come here. So just make sure we're all on the same page on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. Just want to follow up on Tony's comments. He is absolutely correct about only doing 2 fields. In an email I sent, it was probably back in June, I think, to Councilmember Goss, I did a little bit of a cost breakdown of what this could look like, kind of as a 2-phase project. So phase 1 would be in 2024. So Hobart Debtor 100% plus field 2 and field 3 at Fun Valley. Total investment by the city would be about $1.5 million. Investment by Hutch or by HCC, 1.2 million, and then potentially 300,000 from USD 308. So 1.5 for the city, and then potentially 1.5 for partners if we're able to get 308 on board. So to make that complete, then look at year 2, finish Fun Valley, field 1, 4, 5, 6, and then Rice Park. Infield only on Rice 1 would be about $1.8 million to do that, which I think would make our ball fields complete. So over the 2-year project, then total investment by the city would be $3.3 million. Outside investment about $1.5 million. So, I think that's what we're buying into if we proceed with 24. Like Tony said, only doing two of the 6 doesn't help us for tournaments. Doesn't necessarily even help us for leagues. There'll be a lot of league games played on those, but it still creates a scheduling nightmare when you have to cancel 4 fields but can play on 2 on just your normal Wednesday night league game. So I just wanted to clarify that if we proceed with turf, you will be seeing that request next year to finish that up for the rest of the fields. So hopefully that answers some questions and kind of fills in some gaps. So.
Thank you.
And I think part of the question about the turf, and Angela, you'll have to chime in here, taking that, don't yawn, you're going to make me yawn. Taking that into consideration, we were looking at what other projects we have that we've been putting off or that we are obligated to do, and what's our bonding capacity limiting. What are we tying ourselves to over the next 3 years? Because the turf conversation quickly took on its own, I don't know. Life. Thank you. And became a whole lot more than I think any of us anticipated, making it into a multi-year, multi-schools, everything involved. So what other projects, if we and I'm all for leaving this in right now while we're still in conversations, especially having not heard back from 308. But what other projects do we have coming down in the next 2 years? Because in Justin's email, you mentioned our bonding capacity in 24 with Woody Seat. Is there anything else like that, or Woody Seat next phase?
So you would look at
Phase
page
2.
323 and 324, which lists the 5-year CIP plan.
There's a lot of projects.
There's a lot of projects. I think next year, if we want to do more turf, we'd probably have to make some tough decisions again.
If I may also, one of the things to consider, council, again, keeping this into the budget for this year is definitely an option we have. And I as we go along and continue these discussions, you should, in your mind, separate the difference between Hobart Deddard turf and Fun Valley turf, because there is a difference in those entities and need.
I have no problem leaving it as it is, but I want to have a business case discussion about Fun Valley. Period. Hobart Deader is a no-brainer for me. You know, hopefully USD 308 would buy in on some of that, but going forward with Fun Valley and how that looks going forward, I have a lot of questions, and we just need to have these hard conversations about what the future of Fun Valley is, and you know, listen to Tony, listen to Justin, and just have those honest, hard conversations. And I don't have the answer, don't know that business, but want to.
And Tony gave us a really good breakdown. I can't remember what day that was, when you mentioned if we do turf, we still need to do parking lots, and we still need to do concessions, and we still have all of these other things, or else we just have I hate to say turd sandwich here, that we have turf on at a place that's unusable, and we're not going to bring in any business.
So yeah, that was the July 5th.
July 5th, okay.
Which I think we demonstrated with our friends at Visit Hutch, the economic impact that these tournaments, these large tournaments that we've had over the last few years bring to Hutchinson. But it's a competitive thing. To Councilmember Fass's point, there's turf in every city around us. We are one of the last ones there, and I think it is fair to decide, what do we do with Fun Valley? You know, what does the future look like for sports complexes in this town? The numbers speak for themselves as far as the number of kids that participate in both our rec league and our competitive league alone. I mean, there's thousands of kids that do that. And then when you throw the tournaments on there, there's a lot of economic activity that come through there. But if you're not all in, going back to the Bicycle Boulevard, if you don't go all in and you only do it halfway, then we get stuck with these, we're kind of there, we're not quite there, and then nobody's happy. And so I do welcome that conversation about the future of Fun Valley and what it means to really be in that business. And I think it's fair to look at everything that's going on around us, and when those cities are investing in those projects and we see what they get, sometimes we have to do, you know, to get what they got. And so definitely interested in a deeper conversation with that, but I don't think there's any doubt of the economic activity that happens. As I said in that study session, Hutch Rec and the city will be fiscally fine. Well, you know, I didn't fill a full-time position because I knew tournaments were going to be down this year. I'm managing to that. Tournament loss in this town hurts small businesses. Plain and simple, it hurts restaurants, it hurts those gas stations. That's what it hurts, and those are the things we need to talk about. So.
And maybe we, as that conversation goes forward, is if we don't want to do that, how do we replace that economic impact that these softball tournaments have and baseball tournaments have?
I agree.
It's quite simple. We certainly don't want to go backwards.
It sounds to me like we need to have a study session and all meet up and talk about this in the near future.
Yep.
Because it's a lot more than what we can dive into today or be prepared to talk about today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, real quick, Tony, I'm for sports. I'm a baseball coach, softball coach here for a lot of years. And we need to revive Fun Valley. This is a sports town. Fun Valley back in its day, back in the 70s, it was the first complex around. Everybody in the place was talking about Fun Valley.
Yeah.
She's already built. Let's already get her back going again.
Not going to get an argument for me
All right,
on that.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just one additional quick comment. I have reached out to a couple architects about doing a master plan for Fun Valley. So just getting the cost right now so we can look at what is that long-term cost if we do want to improve parking lot, improve concessions, those sorts of things. So I think once we get some more information about what that cost really looks like, I think we can have some really productive conversations about the future. So
I appreciate that.
That ball is rolling, but not quite there yet.
Okay, thanks, Justin. That's good to know.
Does anyone else want to make comment on the public hearing for the budget?
I move to close public hearing.
I second.
Please call roll.
Garza,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Bast,
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Next item.
Now I need a motion to approve the budget.
Could I get some clarity on, do you just want to leave the proposed budget alone for now, leave the turf in, don't include Hilo for now, and leave the chamber the way it is
For now, yes.
for now? Okay.
Any comments on that?
No, that's fine.
Did you say don't include Hilo? Okay.
What'd you say?
She said this would not include the $3,000 request for Hilo for Juneteenth.
Okay, that's fine. Just do it that way, yeah.
All right, then I'm still entertaining a motion to approve the 2024 budget.
I move to approve the 2024 budget as published.
I second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? If not, please call roll.
Garza,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Bast,
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8A, consider a resolution approving issuance of industrial revenue bonds by the county for a commercial facility.
Just to back up a little bit, please stay around to sign the certificate for the county for the budget afterward.
Thank you.
Okay, Angela Richard, Director of Finance. The county is considering issuing IRBs, industrial revenue bonds, for APAC, Kansas. They plan to build an office and training center at the intersection of Avenue G and Airport Road. This is not inside city limits, but per statute, since it is right against city limits, they must notify us and give us a chance to respond to this proposal. So as I said, this will be a corporate office and training center. It is to be started and completed in 2024. The training center is proposed to bring employees throughout Kansas and from out of state to train, and could include overnight stays. Future years, they could build a quality control center at this location. Wichita State did an economic impact model, as we require for our IRBs, and it showed that the city's rate of return is 2.45. So that is a good rate of return, probably because we're not really investing anything. We're not losing out on property taxes since it's outside of city limits, and we will benefit from the travel to inside the city limits for training. So we can take one of three actions for this. We can either adopt the resolution as presented, we can do nothing and then they assume that we have approved by September 12th, or we can deny the issuance of the IRBs by the county. City staff sees no reason to deny the IRBs, and we would recommend approving the resolution as presented. Are there any questions?
This is not a for sure thing. This is just a, at this point.
It is a for sure thing. They
Okay.
do plan on issuing the 5.5
Okay.
million of IRBs and proceeding.
I will say that I have spoken with the county as well as APAC, and they're here if you want to have any questions.
Okay. Sorry, from reading it, I didn't know if it was, because it's all future tense. So thank you for clarifying.
Does anyone want to hear from APAC on this, or is this something we need to discuss further?
I mean, again, there's no risk to the city by issuing industrial revenue bonds.
I agree. No, we don't.
Then I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve a resolution approving the issuance by the Board of County Commissioners of Reno County, Kansas, of its industrial revenue bonds to pay the cost of the acquisition, construction, and equipping of a commercial facility to be leased by APAC Kansas, Inc., which facility is located within 3 miles of the corporate limits of the city of Hutchinson, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second that.
Any other discussion? If not, please call roll.
Garza,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Fast,
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Next item.
Item 8B, consider a resolution approving a special event in a designated entertainment district for the zoo paint and sip event.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. This is for an event at the zoo. They want to be able to consume alcoholic beverages on the zoo grounds on September 23rd. And they've put the event there, and I don't remember whether it had a map or not. Yeah, it
there's
is.
a map.
It does have a map. It's basically the map of the zoo.
Any questions for Mr. Brown?
I move to approve a resolution to authorize a special event in a designated entertainment district pursuant to City Code Section 18-801 for the zoo paint and sip event, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, please call roll.
Garza,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 8C, consider a resolution approving a special event in a designated entertainment district for Hutchfest Hutchinson Rod Run event.
And this is the Rod Run combined with Hutchfest, October 6th and 7th. And there is a map for that for a number of blocks here in the downtown, from Avenue C up to 3rd, actually up to the railroad tracks, up on Main Street, and for the most part, a block on each side of Main Street. And this is not an unknown event. I think it may be the 11th year.
Any questions for Mr. Brown on this? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve a resolution to authorize a special event in a designated entertainment district pursuant to City Code Section 18-801 for the Hutchinson Rod Run event, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second that.
Any other comments? If not, please call roll.
Garza,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 9A, consider 2024 memorandum of understanding with the Fraternal Order of Police.
Good morning, Council. Tom Sanders, Human Resources Director. Pleased to be with you this morning to review the tentative agreement that we've had with the FOP. We started negotiations back on February 23rd. We had 6 formal sessions on meet and confer. And on July 1st, we were able to come to agreement. With the national shortage of police officers, it's been a challenging few years in terms of putting together adequate compensation packages to attract and retrain officers. And this year, I think we've really done a really good job of coming up with a good package that both sides feel really good about, and also kind of keep up with where we're at in the market today and where it's projected to go next year. Just to highlight some of the changes, Appendix B, the wage scales, we are moving the police officer scale next year up by 7.7%. And the top of the scale is going to move up by 10.6%. The police sergeant scale is not moving as much. It's going up 2%, and the top end's going up 3.6%. On subsection C of Article 16, there's new language that codifies management's discretion to design, alter, or eliminate hiring or milestone bonuses, and also to make them contingent upon a formal repayment agreement. So if an employee leaves within a certain amount of time, we can recoup some of that cost. And we've been doing some of that, particularly in the fire department, but I think this gives us an extra tool to help retain employees and make sure that they're committed to join our force. Subsection C of Article 16 also outlines factors that we use this year to address wage compression. As you guys know all too well, the last 3 years in particular have been really dramatic in terms of seeing wage scales go up, particularly in the law enforcement world. In doing that has caused a real big challenge for us, and not only us, but every agency out there, for wage compression. And we came up with a plan, working with the FOP, that I think really addresses that in a fair and adequate way. And the factors that we're looking at were time and job, of course, and then differences in past performance, because we didn't want to wipe out those differences that employees had that were performing it really well versus those that were successful but just not quite as high. And then also recognizing prior law enforcement experience. As you guys know too, given our kind of critical state of staffing with the police department right now, we had requested through city manager that we be able to implement these changes for the FOP group as soon as the FOP approved the contract, which they did right away, and we were able to get those implemented on July 30th. So I think that will really help us with current retention and recruitment. Appendix C also covers the merit pay matrix for next year, which is adjusted to a 4.25% overall budget, which is up from 3.5 this year. And then on the variable pay programs under Article 17, we negotiated new language with the union to allow for SRO officers to be eligible for designated unit pay during those periods of time when they are working the full duties of a detective, and also for an extended period of time, like Christmas breaks, summer breaks, things like that. We also made some minor modifications, really more administrative in nature, with the Article 24, which covers the medical and dental program. That really reflects the way we've always practiced in terms of plan administration, and also just the language as just aligns better with others that you find in the other MOUs that we have. Article 23, not so much an economic issue, but just to clarify some confusing, unclear policies. It provides language on how the department will be handling officers that are placed off duty due to credible concerns of off-duty misconduct. And those will be unpaid. Hopefully those don't happen very often, but occasionally they do, and it's been a little bit of a morass trying to figure out how that is going to happen going forward. We'll have that clarity. And then promotional assessment procedures on Article 13. Again, just a minor administrative change there. I think we made the language change there, reflecting staff officers versus identifying specific ranks. In my cover memo, I provided a breakout of the economic aspects of all these little additions to base pay. When you put it all together for the bargaining unit, it's about a 9.7% increase in base pay. I think it's already been mentioned, we're also facing high costs next year in terms of health insurance. That looks like that's probably going to hold true. I'm going to be meeting with our consultants on that later this week. So as we kind of try to map out open enrollment. Again, I think this is it's certainly an aggressive package, but I think it's one that's really necessary and needed. And I'd really appreciate the council's approval of that as we were going through negotiations, and I know the FOP really did too. Also really want to thank Hunter Ogburn in particular. He's the president of the FOP. They did a really good job this year coming to the table prepared and with specific proposals, which always really helps a lot. And when we were counter-proposed, they were very timely and thoughtful in terms of getting back on their position on things. So that helped things move along really nicely. And just again, I just very complimentary, because I really felt like throughout the whole process they acted in good faith through the whole process. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Mr. Sanders? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the proposed memorandum of understanding with the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 7 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions on this? Please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 9B, consider 2024 memorandum of understanding with the International Association of Firefighters.
Tom Sanders again, Director of Human Resources. Formal negotiations with the IFF started this year back on February 23rd. And we, after, let's see, I think 6 meetings, we were able to reach tentative agreement with them on August 2nd. Similar story is with the FOP. Most of our negotiations revolved around economic issues because, as you guys again know from last year, we've experienced a very big acceleration in terms of wage growth in the firefighter world, particularly in this region of Kansas. It's been a particularly acute. And the other thing that we did talk about this year and were able to come to agreement on how we would get it implemented is HFD leadership, you might recall from last year, was looking to implement or re-implement the fire engineer job class. I think we haven't had it since about 2018, 2019. Chief Beer really felt like that was important for the operations of his group and the safety of the personnel and public safety. So we needed to work through the economic effects of that, adding that new job class in there, so which we were successfully able to do. Highlighting some of the major changes that are in the MOU for this year is movement of the firefighter wage scales up by 4.5% next year. We reduced the top end by 10.4%, and that's a direct result of having that fire engineer job class being added going into the middle. And that's and then the fire captains had the most dramatic increases from 2023, and that'll go up 15.9%, and the top end will increase 1.5%. So bringing the bottom up quite a bit for the fire captains. Article 13 also similarly addresses adjustments to base pay to address wage compression, which again, especially over the last 2 years, has gotten very acute. So we were able to work through with the IFF a methodology to provide still reflect performance differences and those kinds of things, but provide appropriate spacing between employees. And then Appendix C covers the merit pay matrix again, and that's adjusted to 4.25%, just like the police, up from 3.5%. And then we did make some minor modifications in the clothing allowance area, mainly just administrative, changed the number of name tags and badges. And then we basically consolidated that section of Article 20 with Appendix D, just to have one less appendix. And we also added one new article this year, and that's the reimbursement program. It costs a lot to outfit a new firefighter with all the PPE and its customized gear and all that stuff, and we spend at least a couple $1,000s to do that. And so one of the things that's been in place at the fire department for I think 2 years now is they have a repayment agreement that if the employee leaves within 3 years, they pay all or a portion of that cost back to us. That's been happening on a more informal basis. We wanted to put that into the contract just so we have clear rules of understanding on that. So that language has now been inserted as the new Article 32. And then we worked through in Article 28 the promotional ranking procedures for that new fire engineer position. And I already mentioned Appendix D is just eliminated. It's rolled back under Article 20. Again, I provided a breakout of the line item costs for each of those pieces of the compensation program. And similarly, I'd like to recognize and give my appreciation to the IFF negotiating team and Troy Mueller in particular. Again, they came even though we started very far apart, we were able to work through things by, again, coming prepared to meetings and just being reasonable and all those things that you would expect to have when you got that high level of trust built up. Again, it took a lot of time and effort on both sides' part, but we got there, and I think it's a very strong package. And I think it will help us continue to retain our firefighters and then hopefully continue to attract very solid candidates going forward. So, questions on that?
I know we've looked at a lot of this information over the last few months, but I want to make sure no one has any more questions or clarifications they need.
Oh, I do. On Article 32, you just mentioned that if they leave, they have to pay back the portion.
Yeah.
If they pay back, they're just gonna pay back, I guess, if they pay the whole thing, they take that equipment with them?
It's a good question. I think the answer is yes. Not 100% sure. I
Okay.
could get you an answer for sure on that, though. But
Any other questions for Mr. Sanders? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the proposed memorandum of understanding with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 179, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, please call roll.
Garza.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Next item.
Item 10, report of city officials.
Mr. Garza, would you please start us off?
I sure can. Mr. Justin, I got a question for you, sir. Can you come up to the hot seat, please, or porch, or whatever? I've been getting a lot of couple emails and a lot of calls on trees in the right of way.
Yeah.
I know we've been years ago, we used to have a forestry department that cut the trees. It's up to the homeowner to cut their own trees now. We don't cut them no more because we don't have a forestry department. Is that right?
Yes and no. We do not and never have maintained the trees on the city right away. There has been a few times during the height of Dutch elm disease, the city did remove some trees on an emergency basis, but the ordinance has been in place for 40 or more years that the adjoining property owner is responsible for their tree on the city right away. This year has been really, really tough. Last summer we were really hot and dry. We had a really dry winter, which not a lot of people think of as really bad on trees. And then this year being hot and dry, we're just seeing a lot more tree death this year than we've seen in previous years. So we're issuing lots of letters. I've been working with the tree board to try to find some compromise to maybe help replace some of those trees. But it is, the way our ordinance is written, it is the responsibility of the homeowner.
So what's the penalty if they don't cut the trees after you send them a letter? Do you hire a contractor like we do?
So we do have the ability then, if we so we give them a time frame to remove the tree. If the tree is not removed, the city does have the authority to go in and cause the tree to be removed, basically hire a contractor, and then we can't put that back onto their property taxes.
My calls have been mostly for trees over the road for emergency vehicles to go through. Same practice on that. If they don't cut their trees
Yeah.
to remove it, then the limbs on that,
Yep.
then we would go in there.
Yeah, so if it's what we consider an emergency, so a block stop sign that we feel is going to put somebody in danger, a blocked street light or a traffic signal or something like that, or a broken and hanging limb that we feel wind could blow and it could land in the street, we will take care of it right there on site if we deem it's an emergency. If it's just low and it's maybe rubbing against a trash truck, then yeah, we'll issue the letter.
Okay, and more, even if a tree is going to fall down immediately, situation that we would still, the homeowner would still have to take it, right? They still would have to cut it down.
If it's an immediate threat, then it's a judgment call in the field. So if I can't walk away from that tree knowing that there's immediate risk that that's going to hurt somebody or even kill somebody, we will take it down or have a contractor take it down right there.
Okay,
So-
I do know one tree that I'll talk to you about that is
Okay.
leaning over, and
Yeah.
and I'll talk to you later about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, it creates a lot of challenges, but to go in and have the city start maintaining all the city right away.
Yeah.
When I was in the city of Wichita, that was what I was the city arborist, and so that's what we did. But we had a crew of 40, 45 people. 4 separate crews that included multiple vehicles, bucket trucks, shipper trucks. So it's a huge ordeal to take on those trees. Not having the staff and the equipment now to do it. So.
Right. Well, when I worked for the city back then, when we used to take care of them, and people call me, I said, "Well, I thought we took care of them," but now I understand.
No, we never have. No.
We had an ordinance there, but we took care of them more back then. We had an ordinance that-
Yeah, I wouldn't say more.
Okay.
We've always done the stop signs and those sorts
Okay.
of things, so, yeah.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Yep.
Okay, and then what I have is, I had one of my meetings last Saturday. Miss Grace was there, and we had a really good meeting. People came out and talked and had some, you talked about people want to know about their taxes. We had some talks about taxes there. And it was a really, really good meeting. So I hope people will come out more. I advertise it. I get on the radio and tell people to come out. And this is your chance to talk to me. Sometimes I don't. I get in the hot seat, make myself in the hot seat. So, but other than that, and last but not least, the Mexican dance. You know me, I love to dance. So if you haven't come out, I love Mexican music. That's one of my favorite time of the year is this time. So make sure everybody comes out and to the September 23rd to the dance. I don't speak Spanish, and I might have to go to those classes. So, but I love Mexican music, and that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fast.
Along those lines, with the National Hispanic Heritage Month, I was reading some history about Hutchinson, and Hutchinson had, I believe, the first Hispanic mayor in the state, and also the first Hispanic city manager. So I think there is a lot of good Hispanic heritage in this town, and I think it needs to be honored. And I think we do that at least once a year on September 23rd this year. So anyway, I just wanted to share that and would reiterate congratulations to Mark and Kim Blackham on their win. That was a really fun thing to follow, just watching how they really weren't even paid attention to, and they won that thing. So anyway, congratulations to them. I'm finished.
All right, Ms. Goss.
I think today wraps up a lot of really hard work by some of our department heads. So I want to say thank you to everybody who is involved in the negotiations and has been involved in the budget and whatnot. Thank you all for. I know you've gone above and beyond. I don't really have a lot to report this time, so I will yield back to you.
All right. The only thing I was going to say is, we've got the Kansas State Fair coming up.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
we've got some questions on some of the traffic signals on Main Street. If it's a flashing red, treat it as a stop sign. Things are probably going to get pretty crazy with traffic over the next week as everyone's coming into town, so just keep that in mind. And have fun at the fair. I'll pass it on to the city manager.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to echo some of the things. I want to recognize Angela and her team for all the hard work. It is impressive work that they do for a small group. I commend them, and I'm really lucky that I have them to help guide us as we go through and navigate this process. So commend them. They do a great job. Similarly, Tom Sanders and the HR, he has done a stellar job at putting together all the compensation and all the analysis to make sure that we're making sure we're treating the employees and moving in the right direction for the city. So I commend him for all the work he's done and appreciate all the guidance that he shared. You did talk about the blinking light on Main Street that I do want to keep everyone safe. I also want to reference in front of the new fire station. At the light, you'll see that we've written on the street, on Main Street, do not block. So there's a whole section that if you come to that and there's a stop, stay behind that. Do not block the access in case their fire trucks need to get out. So please do that and be mindful. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great time with the fair, and everybody stay safe, and hope the weather cooperates.
All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Please call roll.
Garza?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Fast?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes, thank you, everybody. Let's ask.
Yeah. Yep.
Figure that out.
That's why I was asking.
Reminder, we have some stuff to